Today, we are tackling a question that's, well, it's right there at the center of our plates. Are we actually natural meat eaters? We're going to dive into a text that really challenges this whole idea, looking at everything from our anatomy and our ethics to our history. So, this is the big question we're going to orbit around. The source material we're digging into today really pushes us to look past just what we're used to doing and ask, does our body, our gut instincts, and even our health really line up with an omnivorous diet? Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by looking at the case for being an omnivore. Then we'll get into the anatomical evidence, tackle that tricky question of pain, zoom out to see the health and global costs, and wrap it all up with a really interesting scriptural perspective. So first up, let's be fair and look at the other side. The source we're examining kicks things off by laying out all the usual arguments for why a meat-inclusive diet makes sense. These are the reasons a lot of us probably grew up hearing. The case for eating meat usually boils down to these points, right? It's packed with nutrients, it's got those essential amino acids, and hey, our bodies, from our teeth to our stomachs, seem built to handle it. And let's be honest, there's the simple fact that for many people, it just tastes good. These are the claims we're going to put under the microscope. Okay, so that's the common case. But how well does it actually hold up when you look closely at our anatomy? This is where the source really brings its main counterargument to the table, that our physical design doesn't really match a natural carnivore's at all. In fact, it's kind of a major mismatch. And when you put it side by side like this, it's pretty eye-opening. Real carnivores, they've got sharp, pointy teeth for tearing flesh, jaws that only chomp straight up and down, and incredibly powerful stomach acid to nuke any nasty bacteria in raw meat. But humans, as the source points out, have mostly flat teeth for grinding, jaws that can move side to side, and way weaker stomach acid, all traits that are much more aligned with herbivores. But wait, what about our canine teeth? I know, that's the argument everyone brings up. Well, the source has a fascinating counterpoint here. Just look at the gorilla. Gorillas have these huge, scary-looking canine teeth, but their diet is almost totally vegetarian. Those teeth aren't for meat. They're for things like defense and chewing really tough fruits and plants. And the differences don't stop there. They go way deeper. Literally. A carnivore's intestine is super short, about 3 times its body length, so it can get decaying meat out of its system fast. A human's intestine, though, is way longer, around 8 times our body size. According to the source, this long winding road is perfect for slowly pulling nutrients out of plants, but for meat, it's a problem because it gives it time to rot, which could potentially raise the risk for things like colon cancer. This simple thought experiment from the source really hits on that idea of natural instinct. It suggests that deep down, our first impulse isn't to see a small animal as a meal. A true carnivore's instinct? Yeah, that would be a completely different story. Now, this brings us to a really common ethical question, the one that always comes up. But what about plants? Don't plants feel pain too? The source material tackles this head-on by drawing a really important line between a reaction and a response. The key word here is sentient. According to the text, being sentient isn't just about being alive. It's about having the specific hardware, a brain, a central nervous system, that makes experiencing pain and having complex thoughts even possible. And this slide really nails that difference. A plant reacts to things. It grows toward the sun, right? That's an automatic chemical process. But an animal responds. It uses its brain and nervous system to make conscious choices, like that classic fight or flight decision. It's a thought process. And just to really drive this point home, the source completely flips the script on this argument. It points out that farm animals have to eat huge amounts of plants just to produce a little bit of meat. So, if your goal is to cause the least harm to plants, a meat-based diet is actually responsible for way more plant deaths indirectly. So we've gone from our own bodies to ethics, and now the text zooms out even further. It looks at the massive ripple effects of our food choices, focusing on our own health and the health of the entire planet. On the personal health side, the source points to a pretty dramatic difference. Study after study has linked diets high in meat to a greater risk of heart disease, just like you see in this chart. On the flip side, plant-based diets seem to be protective, bringing that risk way down. This number is, well, it's staggering. The text actually cites the European Food Safety Authority, saying that 3/4 of all new infectious diseases in humans come from animals. And a lot of those are tied to the conditions in industrial animal farming. And we're not talking about some abstract threat. The source lists diseases that have been all over the news.
from mad cow disease to different strains of swine flu and bird flu, all of which have been linked back to the meat and poultry industries.
The environmental toll, as laid out in the source, is just enormous. I mean, look at what's involved here. It takes 10 kilograms of feed just to get 1 kilogram of pork. The meat industry uses up way more water than plant farming, and it's a major cause of deforestation, with huge areas of land being cleared every single year. Okay, for our final section, the source takes us somewhere totally different, into a more philosophical space. It explores how ancient scriptures, specifically Vedic text, look at the whole idea of eating meat.
The source brings up this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, which talks about this cosmic cycle where all life is ultimately sustained by food grains. The interpretation here is that a plant-based diet is being presented as the natural, intended way for humans to live.
Now, the text also makes sure to address verses like this one, which might seem to support a law of the jungle or food chain idea. But the source's interpretation is crucial here. It argues this is a description of how nature works out in the wild, not a prescription for how civilized people should act.
And from this scriptural point of view, the responsibility for the act gets spread pretty wide. It's not just on the person who eats the meat. The source lays out this whole chain of culpability that involves everyone in the process, from the one who gives permission for the killing to the one who sells the meat at the counter. And the text doesn't pull any punches when it wraps up this section. It leaves us with this very stark, very graphic quote about the karmic consequences, detailing a specific fate for those who cause suffering to animals just to satisfy their taste buds.
So after looking at all of this, the anatomy, the ethics, the global health impacts, even ancient scripture, the source presents a really thorough challenge to the whole idea that humans are natural meat eaters. It argues that from our flat, grinding teeth to our super long intestines, our biology is built for plants. It suggests our modern diet comes at a huge cost to our health and our planet. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If the evidence points so strongly in one direction, what is it that really shapes what we put on our plates? Is it our nature, or is it just what we've been taught?